History is a graveyard of forgotten plagues. We remember the big killers, diseases that reshaped civilizations and left scars on our DNA. They are taught in schools, but what of the others that no one speaks of? History's pages are haunted by stranger, more bewildering afflictions. Prepare for a journey into the uncanny valley of plagues no talks about. It began on a hot summer day in Strasbourg in the year 1518. A woman, known to history only as Frau Trophia, stepped out of her small home and into the narrow, cobblestoned street. She was not going to the market. She was not visiting a neighbor. Without music, without a partner, without any apparent reason, she began to dance. Her movements were not joyful. They were frantic, a convulsive series of twists, hops, shuffles. She danced for hours, her body slick with sweat, her muscles screaming in protest until she finally collapsed in a heap. After a brief rest, she rose and began again. Her bizarre, silent marathon continued for days. Within a week, the streets of Strasbourg were filled with over 30 compulsive dancers. They did not speak, they did not eat, they simply danced, their bodies jerking and flailing as if puppets on invisible strings. The city's authorities consulted with local physicians. Their diagnosis seems absurd to us now. The affliction was caused by hot blood. Their prescribed cure? More dancing. They even hired musicians and professional dancers to keep the afflicted moving. The music and the spectacle seemed to encourage the plague, drawing more people into its hypnotic grip. At its peak, the dancing plague of 1518 claimed as many as 400 victims. People danced until their feet were bloody and raw, suffered fractures, strokes, heart attacks, and sheer exhaustion. Many simply danced themselves to death. The stone walls of a medieval French convent were meant to be a sanctuary of quiet contemplation and pious devotion. They were a barrier against the chaos of the outside world, a place where the days were measured by the gentle rhythm, prayer, chanting, silent work. It began with a single nun. Instead of reciting her vespers, she began to meow like a cat. The sound, strange and jarring in the hallowed halls of the priory, was initially a source of confusion, and perhaps some hushed, nervous giggles. Soon another joined the first, then another, and another. Before long, the entire convent had forsaken their human voices. The local community was now treated to an unnerving concert of phantom cats. They called upon the authorities. Soldiers were dispatched to restore order to the now infamous meowing convent. The soldiers informed the nuns that this behavior would cease immediately, or they would be publicly whipped. Faced with the promise of a lash for every meow, the nuns fell silent. Like other mass hysterias, this was likely a product of the incredibly restrictive and stressful environment of the convent. The meowing was a collective breakdown, a bizarre and unified cry for help. The episode ended as abruptly as it began. Next, laughter as contagion. Laughter is supposed to be the best medicine. But in 1962, in Kashasha, Tanganyika, now Tanzania, laughter became a contagion. It all started with a joke. 3 schoolgirls started giggling. The giggles didn't stop. They escalated into uncontrollable fits of laughter. 95 of the school's 159 pupils were affected. The school was forced to close on March 18, 1962. But sending the students home only spread the plague. Laughing and crying uncontrollably for hours, even days. Exhausting, fainting, rashes, respiratory problems. The laughing epidemic rippled through the region for months. 14 schools were shut down. Over 1,000 people were affected. There was no cure, no treatment. Doctors found no physical cause. Students lived under immense pressure and strict mission rules. The transition to independence added societal stress and uncertainty. The joke was the spark that lit a dry psychological tinderbox, one of the most well-documented examples of mass hysteria in modern history. A powerful testament to the body's strange and unsettling ways of coping with overwhelming stress. Imagine just for a moment a disease so swift and so deadly you could be healthy at breakfast and dead by dinner. This was the grim reality of the English sweating sickness. It first showed up in 1485, arriving alongside the mercenary troops of Henry Tudor. The illness began suddenly with a sense of deep apprehension, violent cold shivers that could last for hours, followed by drenching sweat and delirium. Victims were soaked through, suffering severe headaches, chest pain, a rapid weak pulse. The sweat came in waves. 1485, returned 1507, 1517, 1528, and finally 1551. Each outbreak caused widespread panic. Markets shut, universities emptied, towns paralyzed with fear. King Henry VIII famously fled London with his court whenever an outbreak began. During the 1528 epidemic, Anne Boleyn actually contracted the illness but miraculously survived. Modern theories suggest a hantavirus spread by rodents, anthrax, or relapsing fever. But its exact cause remains one of medical history's greatest unsolved mysteries. People isolated themselves, barricaded doors, refusing to see family or friends. After its fifth and final appearance in 1551, the English sweating sickness vanished forever. It left a deep psychological scar on Tudor England, a reminder that unknown horrors can emerge and then disappear into the mists of history. Let us journey to 15th century Germany, where another convent fell prey to a bizarre affliction. It began with a single nun who was overcome by an irresistible urge to bite her sisters. The mania spread to Holland and Rome, a disturbing mass hysteria across Europe's religious communities. Priests threatened exorcism, physical punishment, and intimidation often ended the outbreaks. Our next stop, Southeast Asia, and a recurring cultural phenomenon known as koro. Koro is the acute and overwhelming belief that one's genitals are shrinking and that this will lead to death. In 1967 Singapore, rumors led hundreds to hospitals. The health minister even ate the allegedly tainted pork on TV to calm people. In Kalachi, Kazakhstan, beginning around 2011, residents began falling asleep at random and for no apparent reason. They dropped into deep slumber mid-conversation, woke with memory loss, severe headaches, and terrifying hallucinations. Scientists suspected leaking gases from an abandoned Soviet mine. Villagers were eventually relocated. These strange plagues are more than historical oddities. They are a mirror reflecting the fragile and fascinating nature of the human mind. Random Asp Facts. Subscribe for more chaos.